Hello Jordan, I'm the HappyCabbie. Wanted to do a video response to you, but also to a comment that I got on a video I posted about you yesterday. In that, I suggested if you wanted to become a Christian, again, which it looks like that's the path that you're wanting to go, which is perfectly fine, I suggested that you find yourself a good church. And somebody asked me, it's like, well, what is a good church? And I wanted to point this out right over here. And I also wanted to make an explanation for you. Now, when I visited with you in California a couple months ago, that is one of the things that you told me, is that prior to you becoming an atheist, you just quit going to church, you quit focusing on your Bible studies and stuff like that, and that may have contributed to some of the doubts that you expressed. I wanted to point out these little notes right over here, and this is some of the stuff that was taught to me by my church when I was in California. Now, one thing I would like to point out that is not here is doctrine. Now, Jordan, you already know a lot about the Bible. Therefore, you are able to discern what is good doctrine and what is bad doctrine. Now, a lot of times when you ask a church, well, what do they believe? They'll say, well, we believe the Bible. Or they'll post on their website, we are a Bible-believing church. Now, unfortunately, not too many churches advertise themselves as, we don't believe the Bible. Although there are a few that do, probably. But anyway, this is what, in my opinion, is what you need in order to find a good church. Because one thing I wanted to point out, if you are going to rely on the likes of Shock of God, Truthful Christian, or the Saunders Guy for your fellowship, that's not going to be very good, because the thing is, these type of people, in my opinion, are unsavory characters. This does not mean that all Christians are unsavory characters. It is because of people like Shock of God, Nephilim Free, Pinecone Boy. This is what we're used to dealing with on the internet. And I do know from my prior experience at going to church that these type of people are a very small minority. Now, the first thing that you want to focus on in finding a good church is, in addition, of course, to doctrine, you want to go to a church that basically believes in the same type of thing that you believe. Now, your previous background was Calvinistic. You may be wanting to explore other denominations. For example, you may want to go into, like, some of the Baptists, like I was. You may want to try Pentecostalism. You may want to try out the Catholic Church, whatever. So you may want to explore some of these other things, which is perfectly fine. But one thing is, you want to find people your own age. Because if you go into a church and it's really a bunch of old people, you're not going to make a connection. And that is one thing that is in your life that you are currently lacking. You do not want to rely on YouTube for your fellowship with other Christians. You want to be able to hold yourself accountable to other Christians, and you can only do that in real life. You cannot do that on the internet. Now, at my old church, we had accountability in several things. Number one, we had what was called care groups. They would meet on Wednesday nights in somebody's home, and it was a group of about 10 or 15 different people. And our church was very large, and we made these small groups just so we could have intimate settings. So therefore, each and every week, you get together, you pray together, and you form real friendships. And I formed some really good friendships at these care groups. You want to find a church that has small groups, because a big, huge service with hundreds of Christians, it's a wonderful thing. It really is. But meeting in small groups is so very vital. So whatever your church you find, you want to make sure that you find small groups. But you also want to make sure that they have people of your own age, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to interact with them. The next thing that I would recommend is you find a church that is really active on the internet. Not just more than a website, but maybe they have a Twitter. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you talk to your pastor and you tell your pastor, I'm on YouTube. Are you on YouTube? You want to make sure that your pastor is watching your videos. Because I've talked to some of these, well, in a previous video I was talking about group 3 Christians, the ones that are just here to attack and whatnot. They're not really, putting themselves under the authority of their pastor. And that is one thing that you want to make sure that you do, is that you tell your pastor, I'm on YouTube. I want to make sure that you're watching me on YouTube. And if I do something that you think makes the message of Christ look bad, I want you to bring me into the office. I guarantee you, if, like, Pinecone Boy's pastor saw some of the stuff that he was doing on the internet, I know my pastor would shut me down in a heartbeat. You want to make sure that you are accountable to a local church. I cannot stress that enough. The next thing that you want to do is you want to find a church that is going and growing. You don't want to find a church that's just basically dead. You want to find a church that's alive. You want to find a church that is intent on reaching out to people in any way possible. Like at my church, we not only had a bus ministry, that we went all around to the cities. And I'll tell you what, if you ever wanted to have your heart broken, volunteer at a church's bus ministry. We would pick these people up, and to their parents, we were just free babysitters. But they would be like drunk, passed out on the floor from partying all night long. A lot of times these kids have not eaten breakfast. A lot of times, especially the smaller ones, I mean, they weren't even dressed, you know. And it's like the front door would be open, and it's like there's a kid, you know, trying to make himself a bowl of cereal. We would help them make breakfast, and bring them on the bus. We would feed them, and of course, you know, we would preach to them and all that, but you know, I mean, that was the only place that these kids ever got any kind of real attention, was at church. They didn't get it from their parents because their parents were, you know, just doing their own thing. I mean, it was truly, I couldn't do it. I tried it for a couple of weeks. I just could not handle it. But there are people who were capable of doing that bus ministry. And I'll tell you what, those are some true soldiers out there. Me, when I focused on, I did a lot of answering the phones for the church. I also did a lot of door-to-door evangelism. We had a neighborhood canvassing team. It wasn't just Mormons. We did it too. Fun fact, the Mormons once called the police on us. I swear I'm not making this up. We had a park ministry that we would do out in the summer. We would get a permit to hold a little play at a park. We'd set up a stage, speakers and stuff like that. And the Mormon church, which was like right across the street, we didn't intentionally, you know, mean to preach right across. We went there because we were doing every single park in town. Just so happens there was a Mormon church across the street. They actually called the cops on us. Fortunately, we had our permits, so. But anyway, you want to make sure that you find a church that is actively out there reaching people. And find a ministry that you can become engaged in, because that's another thing. That's another way that you can connect, and you need to make friends in real life. People that you see each and every week who can, you know, not just see your edited stuff on videos. None of us really puts ourselves out there on videos. Even me, I hold back. But if somebody is seeing you every single week, they can take one look at you and say, there's something wrong. Let's come over here, let's talk about it. You want to make sure that you are in a position where if you are in trouble, there are people who can see it. The next thing is, again, going back here to going and growing, outreach. Now, I know you previously loved to do a bunch of outreach videos on YouTube, a lot of preaching videos. Now, I would encourage you not to do any preaching videos for at least a year. And here's why. Your mind is not yet focused yet, and I don't mean that as an insult. You were an atheist, you were a Mormon, you were doing the street preaching stuff, now you're going to be doing something else. You need to find out what you want to do. And what I would recommend you do is, number one, find a church, and then talk to your pastor and say, listen, help me find like an online Bible course that I can take. You know, it's real cheap. Maybe they might even help pay for it. But take an online Bible course, really get to know the Bible, and attend church each and every week, and find a small group to meet with, and find people in real life that you can be friends with. This, of course, coming from an atheist and somebody who doesn't like to interact with people in real life. I know. Irony! But what are you going to do? Jordan, this is the best advice that I can give you, and also I like to be big thanks to Seriously Silly 4 for sending me this little dry erase board right here. I love it. Link to her channels down below and also in the annotation. I'm the HappyCabbie. Thank you for watching.